Valerian was no longer silent. The trees glowed again. The rivers ran clear. The Valari sang as they worked, as they built, as they healed. The scars of war had not vanished. But something stronger had taken root. Hope. The Deathworlders still walked. Among them not as rulers, but as friends. Lyra sat in the village center, carving a small sculpture. It was made of crystal and stone. The shape showed two figures standing side by side, one Valari, one human. She held it up and smiled. Talon, now healthy and strong, leaned over her shoulder. "Is that us?" he asked. She laughed. "No, it's everyone. Us, them, what we became." Talon looked around. "I never thought this would be possible. When the Korgel took me, I thought it was over, but you never stopped believing." Lyra nodded, "Because I had to believe. It was the only way to feel close to you, even when you were far." Not far from them, Elias stood near the landing pad. A human ship waited there. It was time for some of the team to return to Earth. He watched as Valari children gave small gifts to the soldiers' crystal feathers. Handmade rings, glowing seeds. "Don't forget us," one girl said. General Mira smiled gently. "We won't, and we'll come back to see your garden grow." Elias held a small data pad in his hands. On it was a message, a reply from his sister Alina. "You've changed. I can feel it in your voice. You sound more alive. Full. I want to hear everything when you return. I'm ready now." His eyes softened. For so long he had felt distant from her, like the space between them was too wide to cross. But the mission on Valerian had taught him something important. Distance isn't always about miles. It's about silence. Silence can be broken with just one word. Hello. Later that day, the Valari and the Deathworlders gathered in the rebuilt Temple. Lyra stood beside Elias. They had both written the message. Now it was time to send it. A single line of text glowed on the screen. "We are Valari. We were broken. We called for help." And Earth answered. The Deathworlders didn't come to fight, they came to care. Then the second part, written by Elias. Humanity did not come to destroy. We came to listen, to heal, to protect. If your people suffer, you are not alone. We are watching, we are waiting. When the cry is true, we will answer. The message was sent across the stars, bouncing from satellite to satellite, system to system. Somewhere far away, in another galaxy, a family on a quiet moon watched the broadcast. On a trading station, a young scientist replayed the message twice, her eyes wide. On a planet ruled by silence, a leader stared at the words and whispered, "Maybe there's still hope in the stars." Back on Valerian, the night sky shimmered with soft light. Lyra looked up and whispered, "They'll know now. They'll know we're not alone anymore." Beside her, Elias smiled. "You showed me that distance doesn't have to stay forever," he said. "Sometimes it just takes courage to reach out." Lyra nodded, and faith that someone will reach. Back, the humans didn't stay forever, but what they left behind was greater than weapons or machines. They left behind peace, growth, connection. They left behind proof that even a world once feared a death world could become a source of healing in the end. It was not the power of their ships or the silence of their strength that changed the galaxy. It was this simple truth. The morning on Valerian was still, too still. Birds did not sing. Winds did not blow. Even the crystals in the trees gave off no light. The people sensed something in the air, something big, something quiet. Lyra stood outside the village with other Valari, stared toward the far mountains, where the Korgel had built their largest fortress. Thick black smoke once rose from there, a sign of their cruel control. Now, no smoke, no lights, no sound, in a hidden command tent. General Mira and her team watched from far above. Their satellites and drones had delivered the plan. Now the fleet moved not with loud weapons, but with silent thunder. Special energy pulses cut off the Korgel's power grid. AI guided. Bots slipped into bases and took out their communication centers without hurting anyone. Invisible waves from orbit erased their tracking systems. It all happened in under an hour. No fire, no battle cries, Just silence. And then light. Human ships lit the skies like falling stars. They dropped supply crates for survivors, medical aid, and messages that read, "You are safe now. Stay hidden. We're with you." Lyra didn't know all the details, but she could feel something had changed. She felt it in her chest, a quiet sense of peace beginning to grow. It wasn't loud or sudden. It was slow and soft, like the light of a new dawn. She turned to Elias, who stood beside her with a small device in his hand. It blinked green. That meant the operation had been a success. "They didn't even fight," she whispered. "No," Elias said. "They didn't have to." Lyra looked up at him. "Why?" "'Cause we studied. We planned. We waited for the perfect time. That's what makes us strong." She nodded slowly. Not the power to break, but the power to know when to act. That evening, Lyra sat with a group of children. They had gathered near the old fire circle. Human medics gave them water and fruit. One young girl leaned against Lyra's arm and asked, "Are the bad ones gone?" Lyra looked into the sky, where Earth's ships still hovered like giant stars. "Not all," she said gently, "but they will be." Nearby, Elias checked his screen again. He had sent the message to his sister days ago. Still no reply. Part of him worried she had moved on. The silence between them was too wide now. But another part, a small, stubborn spark, still believed. Because he had seen it here. Lyra had not given up on her brother. The Valari had not given up on peace. And Earth had not given up on helping. Across the camp, a small group of Korgel prisoners sat in a guarded area. But the humans did not treat them with cruelty. They were given food, clean clothes, and even books with language translations. "They're enemies," one Valari whispered. Mira overheard and spoke gently. "They were. But we don't destroy what's broken. We repair what we can. And we never forget who we are." The Valari listened. For a long time, they had believed strength meant power. But now, they began to understand that real strength came from restraint, patience, and mercy. It was the kind of strength that rebuilt, not just defended. That night, Lyra sat under the stars again. She held the glowing stone her brother had given her. It pulsed lightly, as if it remembered his touch. She still didn't know where he was. But for the first time, she believed she would see him again. She believed because humans had come not with fury, but with quiet, powerful hope. And hope could do what weapons never could. Asterisk, the Korgel strongholds were gone, not burned, not blasted, but empty. Quiet. The humans had taken away their power, their control, their fear. Without a single grand battle, the invaders had vanished like dust in the wind. But the land still remembered. Broken buildings still stood. Ash still covered the ground. The Valari people, though free, still carried the weight of fear in their hearts. Lyra walked through her old village. The paths were cracked, the homes dark. She touched the wall of her family's house, now quiet, cold. A memory came to her. Her brother Talon, laughing as he ran through the garden. His laughter had once filled the air like birdsong now. Only silence remained. She closed her eyes. "I hope you're still alive, Talon," she whispered. "I hope you didn't forget me." Elias walked beside her. He didn't say anything for a long time. Sometimes silence is the kindest answer. Then gently he spoke. "Even if someone is far away, the bond doesn't break." Lyra looked at him. "What if he thinks I gave up?" "He won't." Elias said, "Because you didn't." She nodded. Slowly, she didn't have proof. But she had something stronger. Hope the humans didn't leave after the Korgel were gone. They stayed. They helped rebuild homes. They repaired machines. They taught the Valari how to use solar lights, clean water tools, and simple shields for protection. They also planted trees on for every lost Valari. General Mira planted the first crystal seed beside a broken temple. She said softly, "This is not just for memory, it's for the future." Even the youngest Valari helped. Children used small wooden tools to dig holes for the glowing seeds. They laughed for the first time in weeks. It was a small sound, but It was everything. One afternoon, Elias showed Lyra a map. "This," he said, "is where we found something." It was a small camp in the western mountains. Human drones had discovered a group of captured Volari, held in cages but left behind by the fleeing Korgal. Lyra's heart jumped. Could my brother be there? Elias paused. "We don't know yet, but there's a chance." She pressed her hand to her chest over the glowing stone. "Then I have to go." Elias nodded. "And I'll go with you." The journey took 2 days. The humans flew in small, silent crafts. Lyra had never traveled so far, so fast. Mountains rose like giants around them. The air was sharp, cold, and quiet. Finally, they reached the hidden valley. Inside the camp were dozens of Volari, weak, scared but alive, and among them was Talon. Lyra saw him from across the clearing. He was thinner, quieter, but his eyes were the same. She ran to him, tears falling freely. He looked up, "Lyra." He whispered. She nodded. "I never stopped looking." He reached out. With shaking hands, they hugged, trembling like leaves in wind. "I thought I lost you," he said. "You didn't," she whispered. "You were never alone." Back at the village, Elias stood by the crystal tree he and Lyra had planted together. Its petals had begun to glow. He opened his communicator and looked at his sister's message again. Then he recorded a new one. "Alina, I found someone's brother today. I saw what hope can do. Maybe, when I return to Earth, we can find our way back too." He paused, then added, "I think we're stronger than the silence." Pressed send. That evening, the Volari sang again. Not for pain, not for mourning, but for life. And the humans sang. With them, different voices, different languages, one purpose: to heal, to remember, to grow. The Deathworlder fleet floated above Valerian like a shadow with glowing wings. Each ship was different strong, sharp and shining with blue light. But they made no noise. They came not as a storm, but like clouds before rain. Silent, calm, purposeful. On the ground, the Volari watched from behind shattered homes and fallen towers. They were afraid. Not because of the ships, but because they had never seen anything like them. They had called out into space. And now something had answered. Lyra stood at the edge of a cliff with other survivors. Her heart beat fast. A part of her wanted to run, but something deeper told her to stay. "I don't think they're here to hurt us," she whispered. A child beside her asked, "How do you know?" She touched the glowing stone around her neck, because they came after everyone else stayed silent. Elias stepped out of the landing craft with slow, careful steps. He wore a white suit marked with Earth's symbol, a leaf over a planet. Surrounded by light meant growth and peace. He looked around. The land was dry and broken, but still beautiful. The trees shimmered with soft crystals. Rivers sparkled under the morning sun. And nearby, he saw Volari faces peeking out from behind old stones and broken walls. They were afraid, but Elias understood that fear. He had felt it too when his sister stopped replying to his messages, when weeks turned into months with no contact. He had feared he lost her, that the distance between them had become too wide. But he had never stopped hoping. That hope brought him to Varing, and now he wanted to show the Volari that hope had arrived. The first meeting happened near an old Volari temple. A group of elders stood before the human visitors. They did not carry weapons. Instead, they brought translation devices, medical packs, and energy supplies. General Myra stepped forward. Her voice was strong but kind. "We are from Earth. We are here because we heard your call. We are not here to rule you or change you. We are here to stand by you. You are not alone." Long silence followed. Then, one Volari elder, his name was Sel, took a step forward. His hands trembled as he spoke. "Are you the Deathworlders?" Nodded. "Yes, that is what some call us." Sale looked confused. "You are said to be dangerous." Myra smiled gently. "Only to those who harm the innocent." That evening, Lyra joined others near the human camp. A large fire was burning not for warmth, but for gathering. Valari children sat with human engineers, learning how light could be made from crystals and wires. Medics treated wounds. Farmers shared seeds and stories. Lyra saw Elias giving a child a wrapped box. Inside was a small glowing light, something called a comfort cube. It pulsed gently, with soft warmth. The child laughed for the first time in weeks. Lyra approached slowly. Elias noticed her and offered a soft smile. "You don't have to be afraid," he said. "I'm not," she replied. "I just don't know how to say thank you. You just did." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lyra looked up. "My brother was taken by the Korgel. Don't know where he is. I feel so far from him." Elias looked at the sky. "I know that feeling. You do?" "My sister moved far away. I didn't know how to reach her. But coming here reminded me that sometimes you have to take the first step." Lyra nodded and hoped they still care. Elias smiled. "They always do." That night the Valari sang again. Soft voices carried through the trees. It wasn't a song of sadness, but of new beginnings. The humans listened. Some closed their eyes. Some quietly recorded the song to share back on Earth. Hope had landed on Valerian, and in a broken world of glowing trees and crystal skies, two distant hearts, one human and one Valeria, began to feel close again. Asterix, the stars over Valerian blinked, softly, like quiet watchers in the sky. Lyra walked through the valley where the Deathworlders had set up their main camp. She watched as humans moved with calm precision building shelters, mapping ruined cities, and teaching the Valari how to use strange new tools that healed faster than any crystal ever could. But behind the kindness, there was a strength she could feel. These humans didn't boast or brag. They didn't walk loudly or carry weapons in their hands, yet everything about them felt powerful. She wondered, how can people who come from such a dangerous world be so gentle here? Inside a large tent made of flexible metal and light fabric, General Mira stood in front of a glowing screen. Around her, leaders from Earth and Valerian leaned in as they studied the map. Red lights marked Korgel bases. Blue lines showed human. Scans. A new plan was forming, not to attack blindly, but to understand first. "We don't crush," Mira said firmly. "We remove the roots." A Valari elder asked, "What do you mean?" "We study them, find their weaknesses, cut them off from their strength, then only then we move." Far from the tent, Elias sat alone near a stream. He held a small screen in his hand. On it was a paused message. His sister Alina's last video. She had sent it 6 months ago. In it, she was smiling, talking about her students, about her little garden, about missing their old walks. He had watched it many times, but never replied. He wanted to. So many times. But every message he wrote felt wrong, too small, too late. "I feel so far from you," he whispered. He glanced at the Valari village nearby where Lyra was helping rebuild a broken wall. She smiled as she showed a younger Valari how to hold a human tool properly. That same look of courage, half sadness, was in her eyes. He recognized it because he saw it in his own. She had lost her brother. He had lost his connection with his sister. And yet, here they were, trying. Lyra joined Elias at the stream later that day. She noticed his screen and asked softly, "Is that your family?" "My sister," he replied. "She's still alive. Just far. Hey, do you miss her?" Every day, Lyra sat beside him. "I miss my brother, too. He didn't say goodbye. The Korgel took him when I was hiding." Elias looked at her. "Do you think he's still out there?" "I don't know," she said, her voice quiet. "But I want to believe he is." Elias nodded. "Then we look together." That night, the humans launched small, silent drones. They flew high and far, gathering images of every Korgel base, every ship, every movement. No noise, no fire, just information. The next day, Mira gathered her team. "The Korgel think no one can stop them," she said. "They believe the Valari are weak and that we're too distant to care." She touched the screen, where Korgel supply lines blinked red. "They're wrong." Lyra watched as the human drones flew like silver birds across the sky. She had never seen such quiet precision. The humans didn't shout or destroy. They observed, they waited, and when the time came, They would move like wind and thunder fast, clean and unstoppable. It was strange to her. The Valari thought strength was loud, but the Deathworlders showed another kind of power, the power to wait, to listen, to act only when it mattered most. Just like her hope, it had been quiet all this time. But it had never died. Maybe that was humanity's true gift. Not weapons, not ships, but the ability to carry hope, even through silence, distance, and time. Elias looked at the stars that night and finally sent a message to Alina. I don't know the right words. I just know I miss you. I'm on Valerian now, helping someone else find someone they lost. I hope we can talk again soon. He pressed send. A small thing, but sometimes small things start great stories. The sun over Valerian no longer felt warm. In a small village of shimmering crystal homes, a young Valeri named Lyra stood by a broken tree. The tree had once been full of glowing blossoms, a symbol of life and peace. Now it was scorched black. The ground was cracked. The air still smelled of smoke and metal. She looked up at the sky. The stars used to bring her joy. Now they reminded her of silence. Weeks ago, the Korgal Empire had come from those stars. They brought destruction. The Falari were weak, soft, and unworthy of peace. The Korgal took their cities, destroyed their gardens, and captured. Many of Lyra's friends, her brother Talon, was taken on the second day. The Valari were peaceful by nature. They didn't fight. They healed. They sang. And now they suffered. One elder had built a small transmitter, hidden deep under the roots of a fallen hill. There is a frequency the old explorers used, he said. It reaches farther than any voice. Together the surviving Velare powered it with scraps. It recorded a single message. It said, "We are Velare. We are not soldiers. Hey, please. Help. We are dying." The message was sent out into the cold void of space. Days passed, then weeks. No one replied. Lyra started to feel like no one cared. Maybe the galaxy had forgotten about the Valar. Maybe her brother was lost forever. Every day she visited the hill where the transmitter was buried. She placed a crystal flower beside it. She whispered, "I miss you, Talon." Her heart felt heavy with silence, far, far away, on a planet called Earth. Someone did hear the call, at the edge of Earth's orbit, buried in a deep military base inside an icy mountain. A quiet alarm blinked red. Signal had come in welled, shaky, full of static. But the words were clear. General Myra Lennox read the translation 3 times. She wasn't a woman who cried icily, but this message made her pause. Earth hadn't received a real SOS in years. Nice. Most civilizations feared humans. They didn't ask for help, they stayed out of the way. But this message didn't fear. Hoped. She played it on a loop. "We are not soldiers. Please help." Earth was no longer part of any war. Not since they became known as Deathworlders, survivors of one of the harshest planets in the galaxy. They were strong, fast, adaptive. For a long time, humans fought. Then they stopped. Not because they were tired, but because they chose peace. They chose to wait. Only act when truly needed. Now the signal echoed through the hall, and across the base, officers gathered. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. The signal spoke for itself. Back on Valerian, Lyra sat under the dark sky. She hugged her knees, wondering if her brother was thinking of her. The stars blinked overhead, distant and cold. Then, the ground trembled softly. It wasn't like the heavy Korgal ships. This was different. Smooth, gentle. A sound like thunder. Then silence. Lyra looked up. Her eyes widened, above the clouds. Massive shapes began to appear, sleek, dark ships with glowing blue patterns. They moved slowly, respectfully. They didn't land near the capital. They landed in the far hills, away from the wounded cities. The elder stepped beside her. His voice was barely a whisper. "Deathworlders." Lyra didn't understand. He nodded. "Humans. They came." Lyra's heart began to race. They didn't know what these beings looked like. Now, she didn't know why they answered, when others didn't. But for the first time in weeks, she smiled. Maybe, just maybe, they hadn't been forgotten. Asterisk on Earth, deep beneath ice-covered mountains. General Myra Lennox stood in the war room. The SOS from Valerian played again on the central screen. Her team sat in silence. There were no sounds of guns, no alarms, only the voice of a people begging to live. We are not soldiers. Please help. You're dying. The message repeated, and Mira closed her eyes for a moment. She had heard thousands of war cries in her life, but this was not a war cry. It was something stronger. It was a call for connection, for kindness, for life. A young officer named Elias stood nearby. He was new, still learning, but even he understood the weight of the signal. Why us? He asked softly. They don't even know who we are, General Myra answered, because no one else is listening. And we never ignore a real cry. For help. Far above Earth, in space stations orbiting the planet, humanity's best minds gathered. They weren't just soldiers. They were thinkers, builders, healers. Scientists ran scans on Valerian's atmosphere. Engineers studied maps. Doctors prepared vaccines and food. They didn't talk about fighting. They talked about protecting, and in every discussion one word returned over and over: humanity. Not as conquerors, not as warriors, but as a species that once learned to survive fire, disease, and storms. A species that learned to feel pain and still rise. Some aliens called Earth a death world because of its wild animals, storms, volcanoes, and hunger.
Ow.
But humans knew the truth. What made Earth deadly wasn't nature. It was the will to never give up. In a quiet room on the station, horizon reach? Elias sat alone. He thought of his younger sister, Alina. She had moved to another city a year ago to become a teacher. They used to be close shared stories, dreams, even silly jokes. But after she left, things changed. Fewer calls, less time, more silence. He missed her deeply, but he didn't know how to fix it. She seemed far away, not just in distance, but in spirit, and now looking at the Valari's message, he felt something stir. They feel like I do, he whispered. Lost, alone, wanting someone to care. He stood up and walked to the window. Earth shone below, strong and alive. And in that moment he made a quiet decision. He wouldn't let the Valari feel forgotten, like he sometimes felt. He would help answer their cry. And maybe, just maybe, he'd send a message to Alina too. General Mira gathered her top team. We're not just going to land, she said. We're going to change what they believe about us. We'll show them that Deathworlders are not destroyers. We're defenders. They asked for help, and Earth will answer. One older captain asked, and if the Korgul come for us too? She looked him straight in the eye. Then we show them that we don't fear bullies. We stand with the weak. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is what it means to be human. On Valerian, Lyra sat beside the old tree again. The stars looked the same, but her heart didn't. Ships had landed in the far valley. She had seen them only. From a distance, large and dark, yet moving gently, as if careful not to crush the earth, a few Valari had already gone to meet the humans. Some feared it. Others were too broken to move. But Lyra, she wanted to believe. I want to find you. Talon, she whispered. And if these humans really came to help, maybe I still can. She pressed her hand to her chest. There. A tiny glowing stone her brother had given her pulsed with soft light. She held on to hope. Hope that someone still cared. Hope that maybe. Even across the stars there were beings who still believed in saving lives, not taking them. And that hope in the heart of a young Valari girl and a quiet Earth officer. It's about to bring two worlds closer than anyone had ever imagined.